In a Gallup poll taken in 1999 on the opinions of Americans about NASA's 1969 moon landing, Frank Newport stated that an estimated 6% of Americans believed that the Apollo 11 moon landing was a hoax. At the time, that would have been about 50 million people in the U.S. alone. 20 years later, in 2019, in a C-SPAN and ESPUS poll, Chris Jackson showed that the result remained the same, with an estimated 6% of Americans still believing in the moon landing hoax. Today, that would be about 20 million Americans. Although 50 years have passed since the event, people still continue to believe in this conspiracy. Now, although several conspiracies exist on the validity of the moon landing, NASA being able to successfully get the Apollo 11 space shuttle to the moon and back was not a staged event. In Philip Plait's 2002 book, Bad Astronomy, putting together all the different components that it took to get the rocket built, the space shuttle, the crew, and etc., took about over 400,000 different workers coming together to make the mission possible. In David Hartland's 2008 book, Exploring the Moon, the Apollo program itself costed the U.S. over $20 billion with inflation. And this is apparent knowing all of the research, technology, and crafts that were left behind from the missions. All of this is still being improved upon today, as NASA still continues to make advances in space technology. As stated in Chicane's 1994 book, A Man on the Moon, leading up to the Apollo 11 mission, there were still plenty of failures before NASA could even attempt sending a crew to space. Several lives were lost leading up to the event, such as the tragedy during the Apollo 1 test launch, where all 3 crew members lost their lives when the shuttle combusted due to oversights by the development crew. Earlier, I stated that an estimated 20 million Americans still believe in conspiracies about the Apollo 11 moon landing still being staged. Whether it's connected to the idea of NASA not progressing fast enough to get to the moon, or not having enough funding to continue their research, the basic principle of these theories is that they simply weren't capable of making it. The root of this belief often comes from distrust of government or higher authority, as they believe there must be some personal gain on their hands that they must lie to the public. Although there may have been reason to distrust NASA's moon landing in the past, today it is easy to understand how capable the team was in making it, due to the amount of progress they were able to make since then. After the Apollo 11 moon landing, NASA was able to go back to the moon 5 more times, with the Apollo 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17 in the early 1970s. During these missions, hundreds of samples were brought back to Earth, and many showed impacts on the rocks that cannot be found on anything on Earth, as they would break up from our atmosphere. Even after the Apollo 11, NASA still had issues that cost them millions in funding, such as the malfunction of the Apollo 13 space shuttle, in which the shuttle lost its power supply while in space, and the crew nearly lost their lives when trying to get back to Earth. This led to budget cuts and the cancellation of any incomplete mission plans, which would lead to the end of the Apollo program after Apollo 17. By acknowledging the validity of the Apollo 11 moon landing, we can get more people to understand that believing too much in conspiracies can also be harmful. Many of the most popular conspiracies have tackled serious subjects, such as climate change, causes of diseases, and the safety of medicines. But once people start to better understand and accept these ideas, more changes and developments can be made for the benefit of society. Before the 1950s, climate change was not even a concern to scientists, and it wasn't until the late 20th century until it became widely accepted and scientists began to try to tackle the problem. Although space technology may not seem important to us now, it will likely become much more prevalent in the future. Today, there are still an estimated 20 million Americans who do not believe the Apollo 11 made it to the moon. But imagine how different this number would be if this theory had not been so popular for as long as it had. Being over 50 years ago, at least 2 generations from those 20 million Americans grew up with these conspiracies. Of these, hundreds of them had the potential to become scientists, astronomers, and engineers who could have further contributed to the advancement of space technology and travel. Now, whether you believe in conspiracies or not, it is important to acknowledge the impact they can have, whether big or small. NASA's landing could not have been a hoax, as there is much innovation in the science that still continues to be improved upon, and there were thousands of workers that had to come together to make it possible. Understanding the work they have done and the lasting impact the event had, hopefully we can inspire others to also contribute to science and acknowledge the setbacks that conspiracies can have.